Wack 100 thought he could catch 50 Cent slipping and make a name for himself, but instead, things almost turned deadly for him and his entire crew. Today, we're breaking down the wild story behind Wack 100's beef with 50 Cent. The tension started through the game. At the time, Wack was Game's manager, and Game was already deep into his feud with 50 Cent. That's when Wack allegedly decided to step in and escalate the situation. He brought a group of goons with him and tried to get the drop on 50 while 50 was on the West Coast. Wack 100 carried serious clout in Los Angeles. He had close ties to Suge Knight and the Death Row Records circle, which gave him a reputation for moving with heavy backing. The first time Wack crossed paths with 50's camp, he was still aligned with Suge, and the tension in the air was undeniable. According to the story, Game feared things were about to go left. While he was in LA, some guys connected to Wack allegedly surrounded him on the street, ready to put hands on him. The situation was escalating fast. Then Wack pulled a pan suddenly. The street was packed with dudes, all prepared to jump Game if things went sideways. What happened next could have easily turned into a bloodbath.
Up there, pull in, sure enough, Game, 4-5 people. Behind Game's belly, they had a whole street.
At the time, Game was also beefing with Suge Knight, and the reason traced back to his deal with Dr. Dre. That move alone put Game directly in Suge's crosshairs. According to long-standing rumors, Suge was so furious that he once pulled Game off a stage and physically checked him in public. The situation got even messier on the record. Game over. West Coast rapper Yukmoth addressed the tension head, accusing Game of not being authentic, claiming his debut album flopped, and suggesting that Suge regularly disciplined him. The song painted Game as weak and out of place in the streets, warning that stepping into certain territories could turn violent fast. Game never responded directly to Yukmoth, but he did fire back at other figures tied to the situation. Taking lyrical shots at people closely connected to Suge's circle, he referenced notorious street figures, long prison histories, and legendary West Coast power plays, all to remind listeners just how dangerous that era really was. By that point, everyone knew Wack 100 was still firmly aligned with Suge Knight. So when Wack suddenly pulled up to the street where Game was already surrounded, Game genuinely thought it was over. The tension was at a breaking point. Then Suge himself showed up. At that moment, things could have gone completely left, but instead of letting it explode, Wack stepped in and made sure nothing popped off. Eventually, everyone cleared the area. No shots fired, no hands thrown. But Wack stayed behind, and the two actually talked. That unexpected conversation may have been the only thing that kept the night from turning into a tragedy.
We came to understanding. They less dispersed. I went and introduced myself to Game, shook his hand, he shook mine, we got on.
About 5 months later, everything changed. Wack 100 had started managing a new artist named Stacey Adams, and he wanted Game to jump on a feature. At the time, Game's head of security was a well-known figure from the bounty hunter Watts Bloods named Tooties. Wack already knew him, so he reached out and set up a meeting with Game. Wack pulled up to the studio, and that moment ended up shifting everything. Game didn't just agree to the feature. He reached into his own pocket, handed Wack $10,000, and recorded the verse for free. That move sealed the bond. From that point on, Wack officially began managing Game. Game later rapped about that exact moment, describing how Wack got his number, pulled up to the studio, and walked straight into the booth while Game was recording. Before Wack could even finish explaining himself, Game handed him the cash no favors, owed, just respect. As Game put it, real recognizes real. From that moment forward, they moved as a unit. Cross one, and you had to deal with both. Their relationship grew tight fast, and Wack made it clear he was backing Game during the ongoing beef with 50 Cent. By the time Wack entered the picture, Game and 50 had already been at war for years. Things had escalated beyond music. A real-life shootout had erupted in the streets. 50 had officially kicked Game out of Gionit and publicly dissed him on the radio. After a shooting incident in New York, the beef spilled fully into the booth. With both sides trading lyrical shots, everyone knew 50 Cent's history. He came up in the streets and survived being shot 9 times, something that cemented his reputation forever. But even knowing that, Wack still believed he could check 50 when he came to the West Coast. Wack had connections all over Los Angeles, and one day, he got a call from one of his people with crucial information. They had just found out which hotel 50 Cent was staying at. And that's when things really started heading toward a dangerous place.
La Meridian, La Moran or some shit. That's SLS now on La Cienega, right by the Beverly Center. We thought we did. Somebody called us, told he was up there. I got up there. We came in.
How deep were you?
About 15.
Wack pulled up to the hotel, deep nearly 15 guys with him, thinking he was finally about to catch 50 Cent slipping. But that's not how it played out. People back in New York already knew how militant 50 moved. Wack was about to learn that lesson firsthand. Wack and his crew walked into the hotel bar, fully expecting to press 50 and turn things physical. But the moment they stepped inside, reality hit them hard. It became instantly clear that if 50 had wanted to, the situation could have ended right there. Wack knew 50 would have security, but this was something else entirely. What he saw wasn't regular bodyguards. It looked like a private army. Dudes posted up in bulletproof vests, armed radios in their ears, moving with military-level coordination. The energy in the room said everything. Wack had come in thinking it would be a simple confrontation, maybe a quick fight. Instead, he realized just how seriously 50 was moving. One wrong move, and nobody from his side was walking out. So instead of letting it explode and putting his entire crew in danger, Wack made a rare decision. He backed off. He and his people quietly walked out of the bar while 50 Cent sat back, smiling, completely unbothered. Wack knew the truth. If things had popped off that night, he wasn't making it out alive. After that moment, the tone shifted. The next time Wack crossed paths with 50, he wasn't trying to press him, he was trying to squash the beef between 50 and the Game. One night, 50 was partying at a club that Game wanted to get into. The problem was, the club refused to let Game inside because of the ongoing tension with 50. They didn't want any problems. That's when Wack stepped in. He came down to the club, spoke directly with the owner, and convinced him to let Game inside, not to cause drama, but so he could have a real conversation with 50 face-2-face. At that point, Wack understood something clearly. This beef had already gone far enough.
Gang was trying to get in, and they was like, we can't let you in. Gang like, what you mean you can't let me in? Like 50 in there. So Gang called me, I come down there, I talk to the owner, and I'm like, yo, what's the problem? And like, Wack, 50 got a clause in the contract that says if we let Game in, we gotta pay him double the rate, so on and so forth.
Wack sat down with 50 and made it clear Game didn't want any problems. He wasn't looking for drama. After hearing that, 50 gave the green light and told the club owner to let Game and his crew inside. The tension eased, and for the moment, everything was cool. Later that same night, though things got interesting, 50 and Game ended up at the same strip club. That's when Game decided he wanted to speak to 50 face-to-face and clear the air directly. So Wack approached 50's head of security and told him Game was asking for a conversation. Back then, 50's security chief was a feared figure known as Monster. Monster moved quietly, stayed out of the spotlight, but everyone around knew his reputation. Wack already had indirect connections to him through people on the East Coast, so the respect was mutual. Together, Wack and Monster arranged to sit down right there in the middle of the club and made sure nothing went left. 50 and Game talked for about 15 minutes. From the outside, it looked like the beef was finally settled. But that peace didn't last long. Just weeks later, the two were back at it again, taking shots at each other on social media. Still, one thing mattered. 50 never sent Monster or anyone else after Wack. That alone spoke volumes. Monster remained 50's head of security for years, yet very little is known about him publicly, and that was by design. While a lot of security guards chase interviews and attention today, Monster stayed invisible. His job was simple: protect 50 at all costs. There's even footage of Monster covering his face at airports so paparazzi couldn't get a clear look at him. He wasn't trying to be famous, he was there to work. And people knew he meant business. Around the same period when 50 and Game met at the club, an incident overseas added to Monster's reputation. In Copenhagen, photographers had been waiting outside 50's hotel, hoping to catch him off guard. Instead, Monster walked out. According to reports, the situation escalated fast. Cameras were taken, images were deleted, and within seconds, the photographers realized they had seriously miscalculated. One of them was hurt badly enough to need medical attention afterward. Moments like that made it clear Monster was always nearby, making sure nobody crossed the line with 50. In recent years, rumors started circulating that Monster and 50 had fallen out. Some claimed Monster felt he was risking his life without proper compensation. Others dismissed the talk entirely, saying Monster simply retired quietly in the South and is now living peacefully with his family. There's no solid proof either way. What is real, though, is the respect. At one point, 50 even referenced Monster in a song, acknowledging his loyalty and making it clear he trusted him when things got serious. But Monster wasn't the only intimidating figure around 50 back then. Another name that struck fear was Maserati Fox. They called him Fox because no matter how many times people tried to take him out, he always survived slipping away every time. And that's when things get even crazier.
Real nigga though. That's why they call him the Fox, because niggas try to kill him so many times. Like even when he got killed, I didn't even believe it, because I'm like, nah, that's the Fox, he never died.
Maserati Fox wasn't just muscle, he was a real street figure who could rap, too. His name carried weight, both in the streets and in the industry. Because of that, 50 Cent and Prodigy helped line him up with a major record deal, reportedly worth around $1 million. But the paperwork dragged on, and the process started moving way slower than promised. Fox wasn't the type to sit around and wait. According to the story, He pulled up to the record label's office with a massive crew behind him, making it very clear he wanted answers about his deal. The message was simple: stop playing and move the paperwork. After that, the label understood exactly who they were dealing with.
He got so frustrated that he had the building surrounded, like 100 niggas around the building.
What?
Yo, niggas don't want to pay me? Yo, I got the buildings around it.
Around that same time, 50 Cent was locked in a serious feud with Jimmy Henchman, one of the most feared figures on the East Coast. To many people, Henchman was seen as the East Coast's version of Suge Knight. His name carried heavy weight, and his reputation alone made people nervous. He was widely believed to be connected to the 1994 shooting of Tupac in New York, along with numerous other street-level controversies. But 50 wasn't the type to back down. Before Wack 100 ever entered the picture, Jimmy Henchman had actually been managing the game. That history only made the situation messier. Tensions exploded when two of 50's close associates, Tony Yayo and Lodi Mac, got into a physical altercation with Henchman's son. That incident lit a fuse. According to court records and reports, Henchman allegedly retaliated by sending people to target 50 after a video shoot. When that plan failed, the violence shifted elsewhere. Tony Yayo's mother's home was shot at sending a clear and terrifying message. Not long after, tragedy struck again. After Lodi Mac was released from jail, he was shot and killed in the street. Prosecutors later tied the hit back to Jimmy Henchman, who was eventually convicted for financing the murder. That case ended with Henchman receiving a life sentence. But before law enforcement closed in on him, another chilling moment reportedly took place. Maserati Fox allegedly spotted Jimmy Henchman at the Apollo Theater and confronted him directly, pulling a weapon and pressing him in public. Nothing happened that night, but the encounter only added to the legends surrounding Fox and the dangerous world orbiting 50 Cent at the time. This wasn't just rap beef anymore. It was real life, and the consequences were permanent.
He's just a crazy nigga, bro.
That's crazy.
I told you, pull the strap out in the Apollo. Like with Jimmy Henchman, pull the strap out. Niggas wanna do, nigga. It's the Fox, nigga.
Tony Yayo once said that Maserati Fox had a dangerous influence, that he could turn almost anyone into a shooter and was always ready to crash out. And in the end, that mindset is what caught up with him. The story behind Fox's downfall is brutal. Back in 1998, Maserati and a few of his people were riding through the city in a taxi. At some point, he spotted individuals he had ongoing issues with. He told the driver to pull over and jumped out to confront them. Words were exchanged, tensions flared, and Fox eventually walked back to the cab. But he wasn't done. According to reports, Fox told his crew that he felt disrespected, and that things had crossed a line. Moments later, the situation exploded. Gunfire erupted, chaos broke out, and bullets flew in every direction. Tragically, an innocent man named Curtis Scott was struck and killed. Curtis's brother, Jamal Scott, heard the shots from nearby and rushed outside, only to find his brother lying lifeless in the street. That moment changed everything. Over the next 16 years, Maserati Fox went in and out of prison and was reportedly shot multiple times himself. Despite attempts by 50 Cent to help him transition into music and leave the streets behind, Fox couldn't stay out of trouble. The cycle never stopped. In 2014, after serving yet another sentence, Fox was back home, sitting in a car with friends. What he didn't realize was that the past hadn't forgotten him. According to authorities, Jamal Scott had been waiting for years. That night, Jamal allegedly approached the vehicle and opened fire. Fox was hit and managed to stumble out of the car, but his injuries were severe. He collapsed in the street and died there. 50 Cent had tried more than once to steer Fox away from street life. And when tragedy struck close to home, when Fox's stepdaughter was killed in a separate incident while riding a bus in Queens, 50 stepped in and paid for her funeral. People feared Maserati Fox because he was unpredictable. You never knew what he might do next. But Fox wasn't the only one around 50 moving like that. Back then, much of 50's circle operated with military-level caution. After 50 signed his deal with Dr. Dre, everything changed. Security tightened. Movements became strategic. Bizarre from D12 later said that once 50 linked up with Dre, they all started wearing bulletproof vests and traveling in armored vehicles, because this wasn't just music anymore. It was survival.
We was in some shit, like we had to move like the military, you know what I'm saying? Bulletproof vests, bulletproof cars, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, we didn't really have to worry about that before him, you know what I'm saying? But so the shit really got street shit quick.
50 Cent wasn't backing down from anyone. Not even when Suge Knight showed up to one of his video shoots with a crew deep behind him. At that point, the tension was already high. Suge Knight and Dr. Dre had long-standing bad blood after Dre left Death Row Records and launched his own label. So when Dre signed 50 Cent, Suge took it personally. According to people who were there, Suge pulled up to the video set looking to press the situation. Bizarre from D12 later recalled that they were in the middle of shooting when chaos suddenly broke out. Someone ran into the set shouting that Suge Knight was outside. The energy instantly shifted. Everyone knew Suge's reputation, and they knew this wasn't a friendly visit. Despite the pressure, 50 didn't panic. He didn't hide. He didn't fold. He stood his ground. That moment sent a clear message to everyone watching. No matter who pulled up, no matter how many people they brought with them, 50 Cent wasn't moving scared. And by then, the industry was starting to realize something important. This wasn't just rap bravado. This was real tension spilling into real life.
It's Suge Knight here. And 50 I was at the bar, Gang was there. He was shooting in the club scene. And he stopped. And Suge came in with 30 Mexicans, like you said. Which is weird, you know what I'm saying?
He always wrong with the Mexicans.
People on set immediately started panicking. Some ran, others froze. But 50 Cent did the opposite. He calmly walked straight up to Suge Knight and greeted him like it was nothing. That single move changed the entire energy. Suge quickly realized 50 wasn't intimidated, and he wasn't going to be played. Without another word, Suge and his entire crew turned around and left. The message was clear. A few years later, things boiled over again, this time at the Vibe Awards. Dr. Dre was about to step on stage to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award when chaos suddenly erupted. A man rushed toward Dre, trying to get physical with him. According to reports, that individual had been paid to cause the disruption. But what he didn't expect was how prepared 50 Cent's camp was. Before security could even react, members of G-Unit stepped in. The situation escalated fast, and the attacker was seriously injured and taken away for medical treatment. The incident shut the entire room down and sent shockwaves through the industry. Moments like that only added to 50's reputation. He was surrounded by some of the most dangerous figures in both the streets and the rap game, and somehow he always managed to come out standing. Not because he chased conflict, but because he never ran from it. And that's exactly why people like Wack 100 think twice before ever trying to check 50 Cent. Because history has already shown how those situations usually end.